Hi, I'm actually making this very quick intro right at the end of what has been a fantastic session of bird photography, capturing some amazing images. I'll be sharing these images in a series of galleries and I'll do a talk over of how I captured them. I'd also welcome any feedback you may have down in the comments section below. Hi and welcome on a fantastic spring morning from the amazing RSPB Centre at Burton Mere here in the UK. And straight out of the visitor centre, the geese are in town at the moment. I've also seen a grebe doing a little bit of fishing on the first of the lakes. I'm going to go down, there's a series of hides here. What I will do in this video is I will film in that hides as long as I'm the only person in there. I don't want to be one of those guys that is there making a video and disrupting all the people there that are there for a bit of peace and quiet and watching the wildlife, because it is spectacular here. And I'm hoping that as it's spring, we will see some stunning wildlife. So come and join me as we progress through the different hides. One aspect for the channel I would love your feedback on is I love multi-genre photography, and I've noticed on YouTube people generally do landscape or macro or wildlife or bird photography. I genuinely just love all aspects of photography. Please let me know in the comments below whether you think this is a good approach or whether maybe I should just focus on maybe one core genre or just a couple of core genres, because I do feel that sometimes YouTube gets confused in recommending my channel because I do cover multiple genres. The geese are so noisy today, it's really good to hear. And there's quite a few of them kicking around on this. They're nesting on some of the islands at the moment, but it's absolutely amazing. At certain times, the water is so calm and so reflective, so I'm going to try and capture some reflection shots as well. The interesting thing is that because of the black and white nature of their heads, the contrast is incredible in this sunlight. So I'm having to underexpose by 2. I can lift the shadows a little bit in post. And there's also a tufted duck that is swimming around, which is like the ultimate black and white bird. So I've been capturing some images of that as well. So let me share some of these initial images and then I'll walk on down a little bit further to some of the other hides and some of the screens that they've got here. I think it's important to capture the natural behaviour of birds, and in this image I love the interaction between the pair of Canada geese with the facial expression and movement captured by the splashes of water across the image and the reflection in the water. For this I used a fast shutter speed to freeze the action with auto ISO. Also critical is capturing birds in flight. Here we have a group of 3 Canada geese coming into the reserve, and I love the letterbox style as they face us head on. And in these images we have added background to give us context to the birds in flight, again with a fast shutter speed to freeze the flight and provide a sharp image. Canada geese are often not featured so much, so I wanted to include a portrait of one which shows the details. For this I dropped the exposure by 2 stops to provide detail in the whites and just lifted the dark areas very slightly in post-production. I love how the water drop is just falling from its beak. And here's one of the tufted duck reflected as he moves across the inshore lake. I love the eyes of the duck, and for this image I've given the duck space to move into in the framing of the image. And in this picture, whilst this shows the duck's behaviour, I just love how its eyes draw our attention and the reflection of the eyes in the water gives us a balance. And as I go through the galleries, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Your support is massively appreciated. So that was a good start to my visit here today. I'm just approaching the first of the screens on the reed. It's like a Cove, looks a reed bed. I've noticed there are a couple of people there already, so I'm not actually going to disturb them, but I'll go and see if I can see anything. So everybody else has gone now, so just a quick update. This is apparently the hide where the kingfishers are, but there's a few Greylag Geese kicking around at the moment, which are just showing a little bit of behaviour, so a little bit of look, and there's a coot, and I've seen a couple of moorhens as well. So let's try and get some images here. I've been here quite a while now, really just the Greylag Geese kicking around. No kingfisher or no bittern, which people are talking about as well. So I'm going to move on to the next screen because I've given it quite a long time here and I want to make sure I can get the whole place covered, especially for the seabirds further down as where we get towards the saltwater lakes. And as I make my way down to the next hide, please enjoy these couple of images of the geese. I think I'm done for geese. I can start to see the rest of the bird life, the seabirds and the waders. And the Greylag Geese did not disappoint with their behaviour, as this breeding pair demonstrate. I think these images capture the interaction between the pair really well, capturing the action with a fast shutter speed. And this demonstrates the importance of watching and being patient for animal behaviour. Whilst there, a formation of Greylag Geese flew over, which made for a spectacular sight. I managed to capture this against the blue sky with some cloud just adding detail in the background. I especially love the formation and framing of the goose in the centre. So I'm just now making my way to the Marsh covert hide, which sticks out into some of the saltwater flats. Surrounded by reeds, absolutely amazing location. I suspect this is going to be quite busy. I'm going to be there a long time, so there may be opportunities when there's nobody else in the hide. Well, that was a very pleasant experience. The avocets in the pool nearby, the gulls, mainly black-headed gulls on the island in the distance, but kept taking off, and absolute abundance of birds from that one. It was quite busy inside, so I didn't do any footage inside. And there was an egret. It was quite a great place for capturing birds in flight as well. There was quite a few flying over geese, egrets, gulls, etc., and the avocets as well coming into land and take off. So here's a splattering of images from that hide. I hope you enjoy these, and I am now going to make my way down through the Wetland Boardwalk. The avocet behaviour in the breeding season is great to observe. Here, two avocets were chasing each other off. I love the way the action has been caught and the reflection leading the eye to the birds. And this classic image of an avocet wading, again using -2 exposure compensation to make sure we had detail in the whites, and I love how it caught the highlight in its eye. And here we have an egret with nesting material in flight. As it was nest building time, these made for great images with the backdrop of the trees and fields, blurred by using a low aperture and framed by the reeds at the bottom. This hide was a great location for capturing birds in flight, and in this series of images of the egret, I had real trouble selecting which image showed the bird at its best in flight. Please let me know in the comments below which one you prefer. So I'm just approaching the next screen now. This is the bridge screen, it's called. It overlooks a saltwater wetland with a small island. There's going to be a lot of seabirds and gulls here, I suspect. So I'm going to try and get a good view and see what it is. It's quite busy, so I'm going to just go and see what images I can capture. I've left the bridge screen now, just walking through the boardwalk, under the trees, through the wetlands. Absolutely amazing place. I'm finding today, because it's so sunny, I'm using my exposure compensation on pretty much every shot. But there were some grebes there. I was a little bit close, could identify the avocets a little bit better and the gulls. So just enjoy some of these very brief images, brief gallery from there close up, and then I'm going to go through to the final hide at the end of the reserve. First up, we have a profile image of a grebe. There were a pair, but sadly they were not interacting, so this gives me a great excuse to go back to get some more images. And talking of birds interacting, being so close to the birds from this screen allowed me to capture images of their behaviour. And as it was spring, there was quite a bit going on. In this image, we can see how the pair of geese coming into land paid no attention to the moorhen as they did so. And in this one, we can see one black-headed gull chasing off another, presumably males from the female in the water. In this one, I've left the space on the left of the image for the birds to fly into. Do you think this works, or should it have a tighter crop?
The weather was also very changeable on the day, and through a bit of patience I waited for a calmer spell to capture this reflection of an oyster catcher and hear a shoveler as it came closer. I like the composition of this image with the wake leading the eye to the shoveler.
I'm just approaching the final hide now. It's called the border hide, as its name suggests. It's right on the border of the reserve, and it's about 1.5 kilometres from the visitor centre, I would guess. It's a brilliant hide. This is normally one of the busiest, so I'm going to do a quick intro here. I'm going to go and see what I can see. I've already seen lots of godwits and redshanks, and there's so many waders as well. But there's a bank between me and the wetland at the moment until we get into the hide. So let's head on in there and let's see what we can capture. Wow, that was fantastic. I've had to leave the hide. I didn't do any filming inside. It was so busy. It was rammed as expected. There was a flock of godwits and redshank just sitting on a very shallow sunken island. But they could all stand in it, and every so often they would take off and circle around. Absolutely fantastic to experience and watch. And as they swing direction, absolutely amazing to watch. I'm hoping I've got, fingers crossed, I've got some great images from there of them in flight. There was also some more avocets and a few other seabirds and the like, and absolutely amazing. So I could not recommend this place highly enough. It's a stunning location. And it was quite interesting because the wind got up and then they all kind of left. So they kind of departed and became very, very quiet. However, I did see a marsh harrier, but it was so far away, and there's been a buzzard flying overhead as well, plus a heron. So I think it landed somewhere in the wetlands. So I'm just heading back now to see if I can catch a glimpse of that. And whilst I take a walk back, I'll keep an eye out for the heron, but please do enjoy these images of the birds that I've captured from the border hide.
This hide was amazing to photograph birds in flight due to the high level of activity. This first image shows the godwits circling above the wetland, and I would love your feedback on which crop works best, the original image or more landscape crop. They are both different captures, and I believe the landscape crop works best to highlight the density of the birds whilst also drawing the eye's attention to the larger bird on the left. And this brought me to focus in on the flight of the birds. Here I wanted separation between the main subject and the flock, and this image works well in making sure that the primary subject is separated to draw our eye to the top left subject, and the shallow depth of field created a little background blur while still being fully identifiable. This provides context to the image and a sharp and striking subject. I also liked what appeared to be a bit of anarchy when the godwits came back into land in the sunken island, and I think this image captures the degree of activity well. And whilst they'd been in flight, a gull had taken to using the shallow waters, so after the first wave landed, the gull became surrounded. Talking of gulls, I had to include images of them in flight, as gulls are often overlooked. Here we have a black-headed gull in flight with the slight ripple texture of the water behind, which I think is often better than a solid blue sky. In this image, one of the breeding pair is just taking off as the other looks on. I feel this captures interaction between the pair as they prepare to breed for the season. And finally, I didn't know whether to include this one. I love the composition and reflection of the gull, but the eagle-eyed amongst you may notice it's not 100% sharp. Totally my fault, as I forgot to keep my thumb on the back button focus. One of the learning curves for back button focus is when to hold and when to release for sure. And on this occasion, I got it wrong, but I just love the composition.
So I'm getting close now to where I saw the heron land in this, somewhere close to the boardwalk in the wetlands where the reeds are by the trees. So I'm going to go and have a little bit of a search around. And I've just found him. He's walking around underneath these trees in amongst the reeds and the algae covered water. So let me try and get some images. I got some lovely shots of him though as he was going in and out of the reeds through the undergrowth. It was very tricky because you could never see the whole heron at any one time because of the amount of undergrowth. So that was a really pleasant surprise. I've just stopped off at some of the bird feeders that are scattered around the reserve as well. It's a great resource for attracting the finches and tits and some of the smaller birds that are around on the reserve. And these are fantastic places to practice the bird in flight photography, because you can wait for them to feed and you can wait for them to launch off the feeder or launch from maybe a standing branch that they're using before they launch themselves at the feeder. Great locations for practicing that. I've actually used these on burst mode.
The heron was a great surprise, and because it was feeding under the trees and the algae-covered waters, it made for tricky but great photography. Here is the heron on one of the few occasions I could get a complete image, and I love the composition with the algae on the water surface and the reeds just adding context to the image. In this image, I love how the heron's eye is the focus of the image through the reeds. I think this gives a sense of the bird and its habitat. And although I was shooting at a high ISO, the 100 to 500 lens was perfect for capturing a super sharp image of the heron's head and beak, giving us amazing details. And from the bird feeders set around, I was able to capture these images. Here a goldfinch waits to launch itself at one of the feeders, and using burst mode I was able to capture the flight as it flew over to the feeder. He wasn't alone there. There were several birds around, including this great tit as it flew away from the feeder. In the future, I'll take a trip to get some more specific images of the smaller birds in flight, as these were captured late in the day on my visit. I then got two final sightings as I walked back to the car park. Here a swan posed in the shadows, and I've used the reflections of the trees as leading lines to draw our eyes to the swan and its reflection. And I couldn't resist including this image of a robin. There's something so nice about seeing these, as they are so friendly and we can get so close to them. I really like the way the detail in his red breast leads us to the catch light in its eyes.
Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and also check out these videos next. Thank you very much for your time in watching this video, and until next time, thank you and see you soon.